Good morning, everyone. The other day, Trump announced that he was making changes to Medicare so that people in the United States could buy Canadian medicine at Canadian prices, giving the United States some of the lowest medication prices in the world because he was doing the same across other countries, India, other countries as well. And so I found that interesting. And then today, or yesterday, Trump announces this. Donald Trump, September 26th, today's the 27th. Based on the strong recommendations of Senator Dan Sullivan and Representative Don Young of the great state of Alaska, it is my honor to inform you that I will be issuing a presidential permit for the A2A cross-border rail between Alaska and Canada. Congratulations to the people of Alaska and Canada. Donald Trump is doing more for the people of Alberta than Justin Trudeau could dream of, Global News is reporting. Donald Trump says he will be issuing a presidential permit for the A2A cross-border rail project, the first step of many approvals needed for a $22 billion line that would run between Alaska and Alberta. It could be approved very quickly, probably. But it doesn't go through BC, right? Northwest Territories, Yukon, and up and through Alaska and out Anchorage way, right? Pop. There you go. And Canadian oil, right? Not out by the BC coast. Don't worry, you environmentalists, right? I think this is funny. Like, I think it's funny. I think this is Donald Trump trying to do what he can do for everyone, right? And I mean, like, if Alberta wexited and made their own negotiation with the United States, they could just pop down, right? But in this situation, I don't know. Very interesting, A2A, right? Very interesting. And who knows if it's going to happen? Stuff like this takes time to approve. Obama sat on the XL pipeline forever, right? And no decision is also a decision, right? If you think to yourself, man, I've really got to get started on that thing. I'll stretch tomorrow. I'll start flossing tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes, right? You got to do it today, right? Today's the only one you got. So, but anyway, these approvals take time, etc. So who knows? But I think fundamentally, Donald Trump is doing more for Albertans than Justin Trudeau has at all in the last little while. Right? Man, it's scary. And Greg says, anyone else get the feeling that they're threatening us into compliance? If you haven't seen Trudeau's address to the United Nations, well, it's a snoozer. But this is interesting. This is about a minute of it. I'm going to show you, I had it queued up and then the tab messed up. Hold on. I'm going to show you the whole minute because, well, just the tone of this is so, like, well, here we go. Listen to the tone. It's very, very dire and doom and gloom. And here we go.
We are in deadlock. The international approach we've relied on since the second half of the 20th century was built on an understanding that countries would work together. But now those same countries are looking inward and are divided. We need to recognize where we are. The system is broken. The world is in crisis. And things are about to get much worse unless we change. Right now, we have a chance, not a big chance, but a chance to shift course, to realize that the only way through this is together. Putting some people ahead of others does not work. A healthier, cleaner, more equal future cannot be the privilege of a lucky few. It must be the right of us all. We are in deadlock.
I don't know how he proposes to impose this. We all must move together forward equally. Otherwise, what does he say? Things are going to get much worse. The world's in crisis and things are about to get much worse unless we change. Really? 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 I mean, those deaths, they're so bad that you have to scrub the chart. Goodness me. Here's Chrystia Freeland reminding you, we don't want to do terrible things, but we'll do terrible things.
Let's flatten the curve together, limit our social interactions. Please let us all wear our masks. If we do it right, we can avoid having to do much more terrible things, and we can let our kids keep going to school.
Much more terrible thing? What much more terrible things? What could you possibly do to us? Take away Thanksgiving and Christmas? Oh, Halloween too. Oh, right. Yes, it's outside, but those boogeymen will get you right on the Halloween boxes. Oh no, we can't possibly have kids trick-or-treating, you horrible, horrible person. Much more terrible things. The world is in crisis, right? It's just, And he's got his little growl going as well. It is fear porn turned up to 11, right? This is the Spinal Tap of leaders putting on a show, right? Like, let's just amp it up until they just can't stand it anymore. Why would you turn it up to 10 when you could turn it up to 11? Here's going a little international, as we started with Donald Trump and the UN speech and, well, terrible things, right? Terrible things. Here's France. The head of France's National Medical Association fears a looming widespread epidemic that may last several months unless swift action is taken. In all, 1,183 clusters are being investigated, a third of them in schools and universities. The testing positivity rate is 7.2%. It doesn't matter. When are the hospitals and the ICU rates going to start going up? Because they're not. And every time I say this, people say, oh, it's coming. You're going to look silly. That never happened. Georgia opened and they said for weeks, 2 weeks, we're going to see the big spike. Never happened. It never happened. Never happened. Here's Francois Hoare, and he says, this is again international, this is UK. He says, I hope anyone waking up to reflect that riot police broke up a peaceful political protest at two of the world's centers of freedom of speech, Trafalgar Square and Speaker's Corner, feels ashamed of what this once great country has become. And this is Met Police events. Crowds in Trafalgar Square have not complied with the conditions of their risk assessment and are putting people in danger of transmitting the virus. This has voided their risk assessment, and we have informed the event organizers that they are no longer exempt from the regulations. And they went in and shut them down. So this is, if you think this isn't coming here, this is the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is the foundation of where our laws come from. Like the Magna Carta, all of that stuff comes from the UK, and they're tearing it down. They're tearing it down. If you think we're immune, Australia is behaving this way. Here is this gentleman was being Dr. Rosenberg, I believe his name is. No, this is Dr. Rosenberg. Excuse me. This guy here, he spoke in Germany, and people applauded him. And Anna Barris says, and we in London, England today lock him up. It's time to start asking what's going on. Now is the time to take action. And so he was speaking about the COVID lockdowns and stuff, and he got arrested. So this is after the police go in to shut down this, right? He was speaking here, I believe. And so they're tearing it down. And we're just kind of sitting here and watching, right? Yesterday there was a lockdown protest in Toronto. I'll show you a couple of videos of that. Anti-lockdown protest outside Toronto Police Headquarters building. Today, we see Sweden and what Florida is now doing. We've been lied to. Time for life to continue as normal. Scandemic is over. And here's the Toronto people protesting. "17-second video. Very interesting. It looks more than hundreds of people, right? It looks like a lot of people. That's a lot of people. Here's a 2-minute video, and I'm showing you this point because somebody else made a point. It's not often that you see the Amish out protesting, and here are the Amish out protesting. I'm going to make this big and get me out of the way. Here they are. I said Amish. I meant Mennonite. Mennonite. Amish. Excuse me. Mennonite. Mennonite. And great, but this is not something that is usual on Toronto streets, right? And so, very interesting to witness, right? And excuse me, Amish. I watched Witness recently. Mennonite. So yeah, man, and that's a good sized crowd. That's a lot of people protesting these draconian orders that are not based in data or science. Mennonite. I feel bad. I usually scrub the video, but let's go. Let's carry on. I apologize. Okay, here is a meme. I like memes. Jagmeet, the art here kind of bothers me. See, Justin Trudeau's leaning on Canada, taking it left. He says, I can't push the country any further to the left. Work with me, Jagmeet. And of course, Jagmeet's working with Justin Trudeau. CTV News reports Singh says proposed sick leave will be temporary, but will cover millions of workers. So this is in exchange for supporting the throne speech and not bringing down the government in an election that would air we and all of the rest of the dirty laundry that has been avoided through prorogue, right? That's Justin Trudeau's, get out of jail free card, right? You can use one a year, parliamentary session. Singh says a proposed... Okay, I've already said that. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says the proposed sick leave plan his party negotiated into a Liberal bill in exchange for the throne speech support is only temporary, though he says his party will fight to make the measure permanent. What's before Canadians right now with the legislation we've secured is going to be temporary, and it's something that we want to fight to make permanent, Singh told CTV Question Period host Evan Solomon in an interview airing Sunday. We believe it should be permanent. We believe that all Canadians should have this now and forever, and we look at this as a first step. And I scroll down because they talk about a bunch of stuff that doesn't really matter. Quote, while the Liberals have not provided the financial details of the program, either Intergovernmental Affairs Minister Dominic LeBlanc told Solomon that it's in the economic interest of Canadians to help those who the pandemic has hit in the pocketbook. Quote, it is not only in the economic interest of the country to protect the people who've lost income, but it's in the public health interest of the country to have things like paid sick leave, like access to income replacement, so that people don't feel a pressure to go to work when perhaps they may feel ill or it would be unsafe to do so, LeBlanc told Solomon in an interview for Sunday's episode of CTV Question Period. And with the debate on the bill looming, the Conservatives have hinted that they may support the legislation. Though not without scrutiny. This sick leave that the government's proposing that will bankrupt a lot of very small businesses. Yeah, we could support that, says the Conservative Party of Canada. Great job, guys. Wonderful. Yep. Super. Anyway, back to this. Conservatives have consistently through this pandemic done two things. We've supported measures that help Canadians, but we've also held the government to account, Conservative Deputy Leader Candice Bergen told Solomon in an interview also airing Sunday. We will not get in the way of Canadians getting the help they need, but we will do our job. We think that the bills should have some scrutiny. The bill will be debated in the House of Commons on Monday. So, scrutiny, I guess. The NDP, or National News Watch says, Jagmeet says, NDP could prop up the Liberals for another 3 years. Sure, why not? Why not? Here's Ryan Grieve, and he's a political person that I follow. He says, there are some that think the NDP Liberal deal is normal in a minority. Propping up a government that has lost the moral authority to govern instead of challenging the government is not normal. The NDP are admitting that they no longer want to be a competitive political party. That's true. They lost half their seats. We've got a minority leader in Justin Trudeau propped up by the fourth party that lost half their seats, right? And that's driving this change in Canada. Here is Maxime Bernier and Baljit Bawa will be running. Bernier will be running in York Centre and Bawa will be running in Toronto Centre. And I'm just mentioning this because before I said I didn't think these elections would happen. I thought that, maybe we'd get a fall election. Yeah, it looks like they're happening. So at least the People's Party is running a candidate in each region. So there you go. Be aware. Here is Kaz, and his Twitter handle is Canadian Kaz, and he's responding to this news, and I'll tell you what he says after I read the news. Earlier Friday, Moody's warned Canada it wanted details on how Ottawa planned to finance its recovery plan. Now Fitch Ratings, which stripped Canada of its AAA in June, warns of a further downgrade and anticipates deficits in 21-22, financial year 21-22, to widen further. Wall Street Journal writes, Fitch Ratings warns that a failure by Canada's Liberal government to set a clear post-pandemic fiscal anchors meant to instill limits on debt growth could lead to another downgrade to the country's credit rating and outlook. In June, Fitch stripped Canada of its AAA rating, citing fiscal deterioration. Fitch's statement on Friday is in response to PM Justin Trudeau's revamped policy agenda, which investigates aggressive spending in the foreseeable future to help fuel a recovery. Fitch expects a $380 billion deficit for financial year 2021 and now anticipates the deficit the following fiscal year to be even wider. It also anticipates total Canadian government debt to exceed 120% of GDP. Larger structure federal deficits will make medium-term consolidation necessary for supporting Canada's credit profile more difficult to achieve, Fitch says. And so the response from Kaz is, this is far scarier than words suggest. And those words were pretty scary if you were listening. Canada getting downgraded again would have scary consequences. In 1993, a rating drop from AAA to AA created a period where the government of Canada had no obvious way of financing itself. We're talking now about a drop to single A. That's not good. That's not good. Pierre Poilievre. Yesterday I said that Pierre Poilievre had history in finance. I was mistaken. He does not have a history in finance. So my apologies. I apologize. But I think that my point then moves to different perspectives really show and underline how coming at things from a different perspective really make a difference, right? Like if you're not even cognizant of the fact that 2% and 5% are more than 100% different, well, that's a far, far different place to approach finances than where Mr. Poilievre was approaching them from, regardless of his finance background. So, but I do apologize for that. And when I make a mistake, I like to let people know. So I am human too. I should have looked it up, and I did not look it up. He has a BA from, I thought he was a financier or in line with Harper, and I thought I had read it somewhere that he was, but regardless, I hadn't, and he isn't. So anyway, moving on. Poilievre says, the Trudeau government lost track of 20,000 infrastructure projects. Now they want to run your drug plan, daycare, and retirement home. What could possibly go wrong? I still think he's right. I don't think he's incorrect, right? I agree with the perspective at which Mr. Poilievre is looking at this. And when the government dips its hands into everything, right, you must give this much sick time in these specific instances. How are they going to pay for that? They're mandating that the company pays for that. So the company's paying the employee that doesn't show up for nothing because they're not showing up. And the government says you have to do this or you're going to be fined or whatever. The government is able to bring a cudgel down on somebody who ignores them, right, in the shape of fines or jail time or whatever, right? So you have to abide by what the government says. And why would you trust people to expand their reach into how to run your business, how to run daycares, drug plans, retirement homes, when look at what they did with just look at what they did with the Attorney General and pressure on the AG to give a deferred prosecution agreement to SNC Lavalin. That's a lot of letters. But, right? Why would you trust these people? I feel like the retirement homes last name would be Trudeau Retirement Homes or Morneau Retirement Homes or McCain Retirement Homes, right? Like you give kickbacks. And if not them, somebody somewhere is going to have a connection to the Liberals. Why do I think that? Because every other deal they've ever done while they've been in power for the last 5 years has seemingly had some connection. And nobody cares. Why? Because Brenda Lucky's cousins with Bill Morneau, right? And she was installed by Justin Trudeau, and there's no investigation. She didn't see any racism in the RCMP until Gail pointed out the jumping 6 feet was very racist. Thank you, Gail. Oh, I mean, something else also, Gail, right? Gail? Seriously. So, why would you trust these people? Okay, back to Poilievre in a different tweet. The Liberals are not planning to make childcare affordable. They instead want parents to pay more for it on their tax bills. A $22 billion a year government-run childcare program makes a permanent 3% hike in GST with no guarantee everyone gets a space. Parents should have the freedom to choose how to spend their childcare dollars rather than having Trudeau impose his will on them. Liberals would also punish women who make choices the government doesn't like, choosing neighborhood care, a grandparent, a stay-at-home dad, or other unapproved options, and Liberals will punish you. Liberals spent 13 years and billions of dollars on their last national daycare program. After bureaucracy and interest groups gobbled up the cash, no childcare spaces were created. Conservatives redirected the funds to today's popular childcare benefits, which let parents choose for themselves. So he's criticizing. I mean, this is his function, right? He's the finance shadow. He's the shadow minister of finance, right? In O'Toole's cabinet. So that's his job, to point out what the Liberals are doing wrong and what they would do differently. So another reason why I thought he had chops in the finance sector. Apologies. Anyway, moving on. Rocco Galati. I don't have chops in saying people's names. Now people know how totalitarian contact tracing works on a test that is meaninglessly flawed and not meant according to its inventor and science. And without an isolated nor identified virus, people are guilty of being asymptomatic by association. Here's the Toronto Public Health orders 3 King Street West businesses to close to slow COVID-19 spread. These closure orders were undertaken based on Toronto Public Health investigations, including contact tracing data, which has shown that each establishment has not taken the necessary steps to sufficiently protect both the public and employees from the spread of COVID-19. The Public Health Unit said it found that many people were connected to more than one of the 3 businesses. In some cases, people infected with COVID-19 worked at more than one of the locations. We're gonna listen in just a minute to the inventor of the test. Okay, we'll listen to the inventor of the test now. This is, and we may listen to it again, but this is the inventor of the test talking about how flawed the PCR test is. Here we go.
If you can say, if they could find this virus in you at all, And with PCR, if you do it well, you can find almost anything in anybody. It starts making you believe in the sort of Buddhist notion that everything is contained in everything else, right? I mean, because if you can amplify one single molecule up to something that you can really measure, which PCR can do, then there's just very few molecules that you don't have at least one single one of them in your body, okay? So that could be thought of as a misuse of it, just to claim that it's meaningful.
To claim that it's meaningful. Yeah. So this is, again, Rocco Galati saying everyone should know that when he invented the PCR, it was never meant, nor could it identify an actual virus. It's just amplifying a molecule, and then they're testing for whatever. Okay, so I've got to go back here. Hold on. Getting into the COVID section, this is Kulvinder Kaur, and she's a doctor, and she says, in case it's confusing, it's not Sweden that is an experiment, it's the rest of the Western world that has abandoned long-established evidence-based scientific policies and has been experimenting with catastrophic lockdowns and restrictions at the cost of human lives and mass suffering. I agree entirely. Doug Ford says, Ontario is investing $475 million to ease pressure on hospitals and expand access to virtual healthcare services. This will allow patients to decrease hospital stays with virtual ER departments in some hospitals and virtual visits for pre- and post-surgery appointments. Virtual ER? What kind of... And I said, what? Pressure on hospitals. I've been to Emerge 2 times during this unrelated to COVID, and it was fine. Hospitals are empty. What are you talking about? And I have friends and people I know who have worked in hospitals. They don't agree that hospitals are super pressured. In fact, a hospital in Newmarket just laid off 95 nurses. 95 nurses. And you know what? We got 98 labor inspectors. Are you ready for your labor inspector, Toronto? Right? Your orders 3 King Street closed. Right? Lucky you. You're not abiding by the COVID rules. Close your business. Anyway, I remember the sound of music, right? Every so often somebody shows up and everybody gets, subservient. Oh, sorry, sir. Oh, come and see this. Yes, we're doing everything right. Right? It's the same thing. Here is Adrienne Lagrange. I don't think that's how you say that. I was just being kind of silly. She's the Minister of Education. Oh, I didn't realize she was the Minister of Education in Alberta. Sorry about that. Lagrange? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It does matter, but I'm terrible at names and I'm really not doing it on purpose. Alberta students have been back in class for a few weeks now so far, and there hasn't been an increase in COVID-19 cases among school-age kids. Data from Alberta Health shows the number of new daily cases among 10 and 19-year-olds has actually been trending downward. And here's the article about that. Right, a few weeks after back to school, COVID-19 cases are down among kids and teens in Alberta. Alberta students have been back in class for a few weeks now, and so far there hasn't been an increase in COVID-19 cases among school-age kids. Data from Alberta Health shows the number of new daily cases among 10 to 19-year-olds has actually been trending downward, while it stayed relatively flat among those aged 5 to 9. At the same time, far more kids and teens have been getting tested for COVID-19 in September compared with earlier in the pandemic. In-person classes resumed at many schools in Alberta on September 1st, while others welcomed students back several days later. So we've had time and, things are going okay. My school too. Here's the PCR test guy again. I guess I put it in the wrong spot. Here's Toronto Public Health. They say a powerful reminder that COVID-19 spreads when given the chance, and we all need to take steps for self-protection. Here's a real-world example of how one night out in Toronto led to 20 cases and at least 80 people exposed to the virus who had to self-monitor, self-isolate, and get tested. And Hawkeye Pierce, who, if you watched MASH, you would know is a very, very respected surgeon, says this is misleading. You don't get infected and spread it later at night. Viruses don't work like that. One doesn't obtain peak viral load, become infectious a couple of hours later after two more vodka sodas. Is this assuming 3 separate bars for the 2 new cases? So viruses don't work like that. And I don't think you can pick virus up from one bar and then carry it with you and take it to another bar, from somebody else's viral load. I don't think that is how that works. Pretty sure. This is one of the last stories for today. Apparently, Catherine McKenna ate dog meat. This is from the post-millennial. Trudeau cabinet minister ate dog meat, attended illegal cockfight in Indonesia. So there's a video. I didn't watch the video. I didn't really want to watch the video, but post-millennials got the video, and the video is in the links if you want to watch that. This kicked off some very funny Twitter jokes for Catherine McKenna, right? Catherine McKenna's Saturday just got really rough. Kermit the Frog, right? Here's another one. Here's Tom Quiggin says beef red wine, chicken, white wine, dog, Catherine McKenna. And there were others. Ezra Levant had a few, and there were other people just kind of like making fun of this. But that's odd, right? Like the whole, if this was like Andrew Scheer, they'd be calling for his head, right? Dog eater. There'd be all sorts of memes. Other than these kind of funny jokes and stuff. And I think that's what they are, right? Like that's, okay, sure. Like that's funny. I think that's funny. But I don't think that the media is going to pick this up. They're not going to be like, yeah, Catherine McKenna ate a dog and that's not okay, right? Like, I don't think that's going to happen. And like, you have to wonder, because hay would be made of this if this was Pierre Poilievre, who went on a trip in 1995 with a high school and bribed his way into a cockfight and ate dog, right? Like, that would be a big deal if Pierre Poilievre did. He would not live that down. He would be mobbed by Antifa people wearing dog costume. It would be just unbelievable. Like, the things that would happen because he did this, but nothing's going to happen because Catherine McKenna did this. And like, is that because the right says, is that because people on the right are too mature to do that? Or is that because people on the right say like, okay, well, it was 1995 and whatever. I don't know. I don't know why nobody cares. I don't know why the double standard. I mean, there are people who will make political hay out of no matter what happens, right? Doesn't matter what Poilievre does or doesn't do. He's gonna take flack for it, right? They had this pigeon Poilievre thing trending. The left can't meme. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, it has to, through their twisted logic, it would be funny. But the right, it's things that they say are just kind of funny. And maybe that's my worldview, I guess, maybe. But the left is just, like, you look at the things that they find funny and they laugh at and stuff, and it's like, that's not funny. That's just stupid. Like, you're just being mean, or you're just being dumb. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's not funny. It's not clever. Anyway, regardless, maybe it's just me. I don't think it's just me. But nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen for Catherine McKenna for bribing her way into a cockfight and eating dog. Not going to happen. Nobody's going to care. I doubt it'll even get a CBC headline. Might get a CBC headline. If it gets 1, it won't get 10. Won't get 10 across HuffPost and all of the other ones, Canoe, all of that. They won't rerun it. No, it won't make any waves. It won't at all. Nobody will care. Last story for this morning, Financial Post. Ontario to invest massive amount in Oakville Ford plant after union talks, Premier says. Didn't those General Motors corporate welfare, didn't that corporate welfare just do wonderful? Like, didn't that create tons of jobs until it's ended, and then the plant left anyway, right? Back to the United States, I believe, is where the General Motors plant went, back to Ohio to satisfy Trump's demand that they may be made there. I don't see the strategy here. I think Doug Ford likes poking his base in the eye and saying, "Don't worry about it, folks. For the people." Right? Sure, Doug. Sure. We all believe it. Nope. I'm looking for another Ontario party. I've had some people send some interesting things. The Freedom Party of Ontario is interesting. That's interesting. They're registered. freedompartyofontario.ca, I think. freedomparty.ca. I'll check the link and put it in the description. That's interesting. That's an interesting potential, something you could pursue, right? Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com, check out CanadaReport.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful